Welcome to the show, everybody. Another episode of the Unstoppable Introvert Project. I'm your host, Dr. David Hooper, and it's a different type of start this morning. So I've just filmed the podcast. In fact, I've just filmed this podcast, and my camera turned off after about 6 minutes, and I didn't realize. So I was in a sulky state, and I was sitting here pissed that I'd just done that. The episode was about 40 minutes long, 40-ish minutes, and 6 minutes of it got recorded, and I was not pleased. I was not pleased, and I was in a really bad state. I was pissed, actually. I was like, fuck's sake, how's that happened? I've got a lot to do. I haven't got that much time to do it. Why has that happened? Almost like, woe is me. Like, oh, woe is me. And I knew that I had to change my state. And I have. And we are having another go. And we're feeling good. We're feeling better. We've given ourselves a pep talk. And we've changed our state. And we're going to smash this episode. We're going to make it even better for you guys. And I just thought that that was a really funny story, because today is all about state management and changing your state and being a high performing, peak performing person. But before we get into that, how's your week going? How's 2024 going? We are on episode 11. We are getting these episodes out. I'm so pleased to have been doing this. We broke the double figures. We've got the 100 episodes in our sites, and we're coming for it. And just on that, I got ChatGPT to outline the dates for all 100 episodes, and I think the 30th of December is going to be number 99. So I might have to drop a couple of special ones throughout the year just to push us over that 100 episode aim, that target. We are going to get through 100 episodes at least in 2024, and it's amazing to be chatting with you so regularly, twice a week, every Monday, every Thursday. They drop at 1 minute past midnight. I'm not sure what the best time is to drop these episodes, but at least if they're out at midnight, I know they're there for you when you wake up and you're doing your morning workout, so you're driving to work, getting your Unstoppable Introvert Project fix. Remember to follow us at Dr. David Hooper on TikTok, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and you can also find us on YouTube at Dr. David Hooper, and on Spotify, the Unstoppable Introvert Project podcast. And I hope you're loving it. Remember, send me any messages, any topics you want me to cover, anything you want me to talk about. If you've got any questions as well, just ask. I like to think I'm an unstoppable introvert. In fact, I know I am, just like you guys are, or could be. And I'd like to think that I have some of the answers for you that you may be struggling with. If I'm not talking about it on the podcast, let me know so I can talk about it on the podcast. So state management then. Firstly, states are contagious, right? So you've probably been in a room where, you know, the vibe's high and you're buzzing and bouncing off each other, but you've probably also been in rooms where it was a little bit lower, subdued. Maybe if one person was grumpy, everybody ended up being grumpy. States are infectious, and that can be in a good way, it can be in a bad way as well. And the question I have straight away for you is, are you a radiator or are you a drain? And what that means is, are you belting out positive energy like a radiator does with its heat, or are you sucking the life and soul from the room, from the party, from your family, from the people you're with? And that is what today is all about. It's being able to put yourself in a peak performing state in all of these different situations that we have, and really taking control of how you operate and being able to operate in that elite peak performing state. That's what today's all about. You know, are you a mood hoover? I love that phrase. Or are you a bright spark? When Rob and I used to coach people at the Legacy Partnership, we used to call those people soul suckers, who would suck the life and soul from anyone they talk to. They would bring you down, they would naysay on you, You know, you've probably got family who do that to you. If you've got a good business idea, they say, oh, I wouldn't do that. Maybe you're trying something new and they say, you're not really doing that thing, are you? And I say that from experience. And, you know, we have people in our lives who just don't want to see you do particularly well, or would rather you just stayed nice and safe and don't push yourself. Well, it's important that their voices are drowned out by your ability to get into this incredibly positive, high-performing state. Don't allow yourself to be infected by others. And again, I really like that term because their negativity is an infection. It's a virus, and it can derail you and it can take you away from your true path, your meaning, your goal, your desires, your ambitions. Any opportunities you might find yourself in, they can derail you. So make sure that you are really starting to bring your awareness to the state that you're in, and then you can adjust it and make sure that it's peak performing when you need it to be. I think the last thing I mentioned before we really get into this is there are no unresourceful people. It's only unresourceful states. So the people who are soul suckers a lot of the time don't realize that they have a choice to be happy, positive, ambitious, and instead they think they are chained to this life of mediocrity, unhappiness. And that is one of the biggest things I learned when I overcame depression, certainly, and anxiety as well, and overwhelm. I get overwhelmed a lot. I get anxious a lot, but it's the ability to decide almost that you're not going to feel those emotions. And it isn't that easy, obviously, just deciding. There are anchors and triggers and different things you can do with your body and your tone and all these different things we're going to cover today. But just know you have a choice. So if you're thinking about a big presentation you have coming up and you're feeling very, very worried about it, you have a choice about if you're feeling worried or if you're feeling excited. If you have a big job interview and you're anxious about it, just think about how energized it'll be when you crush it. And you know, you can again have a choice about these different things. It's not as simple as I'm making it out to be. I'm going to give you step-by-steps to make it simpler though. But to start with this, your emotional intelligence is key. So you're being aware of your emotions, you're being aware of how you're feeling in the situations you're in. Remember, you can be emotional without being overwhelmed by emotion. So, you know, it can be a positive thing to feel emotions. We want to feel happy, we want to feel energized and inspired and excited for all these amazing things, but we've got to make sure we keep a lid on those emotions as well, that they don't overwhelm us, they don't get on top of us, and they don't derail us from what we're trying to do. We're always in a state, you know, whatever you're doing, right this second, as you're listening to this podcast, you are in a state. It's always changing, it adjusts, it goes up, it goes down, it's a positive, it's a negative, but you have the ability to take control of those states. You know, if you feel like you're slipping into a more negative, unresourceful state, you can do something to snap out of it and become more resourceful. Because remember, these states impact your capabilities, how you're acting with your partner or your family, how you're performing in the gym, how you are contributing to your wider team, or how you're leading people. States really do impact your capabilities. When I'm talking about peak performance, this isn't being peak at all times. You can never be in a state of pure bliss 100% of the time, you know, crushing everything, being in the flow, whatever you're doing. No, you can't do that. Instead, you try and do this peak performance thing. So you can be a high performer at all times. I'd like to think I'm a high performer at all times. But being this peak performer where you really change your state to crush this presentation or, you know, start this project or business or whatever it is, that takes a little bit more thought. So I don't know about you, but I think most introverts get exhausted when they get into a peak state. It's like putting a mask on sometimes, and then you take the mask off, you lie in a ball on the floor, maybe have a nap, and you just think, wow, that took a lot out of me. And I totally get that. And that's a little bit like what we're going to be talking about. So firstly, we want you to be in a more positive, resourceful state, which is high performing. we then want to also have the ability to move into a peak performance state. If you think about a triangle or kind of, a pyramid, that top tiny segment is the peak performance element. It's a tiny 1% part of that triangle, but we want to be able to get into that state. 90% of people won't get close to being a peak performer because they don't know how to put themselves in a state where you utilize your emotions in a really positive way, you utilize your physiology, you utilize your emotions, sounds and smells and touches that you can do, the different movements you can do with your body as well. And we want to really get into a useful, positive state. Now, some of these states that are useful are things like being open-minded, that is, being interested in whatever's being discussed or whatever's going on, curious, wondering about things, explorative, whatever, that more positive state is to you. That is what we're aiming for here. And we want you to be able to manage your own state really comfortably. We want you to be able to go from unresourceful to resourceful at the click of your fingers whenever you need to. If you've got an interview coming up, you can do something that transforms you into this confident beast that goes and crushes it. And then, of course, you're going to start to be an inspiration for others. They're going to start to look at you. You're going to be influencing them. You're going to be the person who's almost modeling how we want these other people to be acting, your friends, your partner, your colleagues, the people you manage. And you start to model the desired state that we want everybody to be in, because we want everybody to be in that high performing or peak performing state. So that's the goal, that's the ambition, and that's what we're coming after today. But in order to manage this state, we need to know what state you're kind of currently in and what state would be preferable. So just think about how you spend most of your life. Are you worried a lot? Are you anxious a lot? Are you lacking in confidence a lot? Or are you up and down? You have good days, you have bad days. Do you use that kind of phrase? For me, if I'm thinking about that kind of preferable state, and you guys need to do this too, think about, when are you in your flow? When are you performing at your highest level? What environment does that look like? For me, if I was to pick one environment where I was in my peak performing state, it would be on stage talking about a topic I love, maybe one of the topics I cover on my podcast, something around high performance and mindset and mental toughness. And I would be feeling great, I'd be excited, I'd be highly energized and inspiring to others. I'd be doing lots of hand movements, my heart rate would be elevated in a good way, and the people who were watching me would be engaged, they'd be feeling like I was giving a lot of value, they'd be feeling impacted, and at the end, they'd be giving me a round of applause and, would be making great relationships from it and all these different things. So that, when I think about a high-performing person, is me, or the other way around. When I think of me as a high-performing person, that's what I think of. So just think about what that means for you. Or if it hasn't happened yet, what might that look like? Is it when you're around your family, you're the most confident? Or is it when you're in a certain environment, you're the most confident? Or in your mind's eye, what is it that you're doing that is creating this high performance, peak performance state? And then we can start to work towards it. Now, don't worry too much about the why at this point. I've talked quite a lot about the importance of your why, as in, why are you doing these things? Is it a deep-rooted personal goal? Are you having a big impact on people? Instead, focus on things like the where. Where are you? Why do you want to be doing that? Because a lot of time, why sometimes leads to excuses. I can't do it because of this, or I can't get into that resourceful state because I'm just not confident, or whatever it is to you. So it sometimes leads to excuses. And instead, try and focus on the where, the how, the what are you doing. Try and visualize exactly what it is you're doing to get in a peak performance state. And you can break this down as well. You can think about, how do you look? Do you need to lose weight? Do you need to develop different mindset tools? Do you need to dress a certain way? Something that I found when I was working as a lecturer is I would dress pretty old-fashioned. You know, my wife used to take the piss out of me a lot. But I was a young lecturer, and the other lecturers wore what I was wearing, and they were obviously a lot older than me. And that would consist of something like a shirt with a jumper over the top, suit pants, smart shoes, that sort of thing. And yeah, that outfit's all right, but I didn't feel particularly comfortable in it. And my state was that I didn't feel like I was being my true self. I wasn't performing in my best with my abilities. And instead, I started to wear clothes that I did feel more comfortable in, maybe more casual. Sometimes I blur the lines, to be fair, between work attire and gym attire, but it allows me to perform at my best. And I'll talk about some of that in a minute. But just start to think about your own life and your different situations that you're finding yourself in where you are feeling really confident. When are you in the flow state? Are you giving a presentation? Are you just working by yourself, working on a project? Are you leading teams? Are you meeting individually with colleagues? Are you regularly moving out of the comfort zone, maybe to interview for new roles or to do updates for the board of executives? What is it that you're doing at the moment where you either think, right, that's when I'm in a flow state, I'm in that peak performing state, I'm in a great state, or you want to be doing that, right? You want to be in that situation, crushing those things. Because the thing about my example is I do public speak for a job, as in I lecture for a job, but it isn't in the environment I want it to be. When I close my eyes, I'm not at a university on an international stage in front of thousands of people, and I'm talking about different topics, the topics I'm really interested in, the coaching topics, the mindset topics, the mental toughness topics. So there are differences between reality and kind of my dreams, but it's okay to blur the lines when we're starting to think about what would our peak high performing flow state be like, and then we can start to anchor some thoughts and feelings and senses around those things. Because your anchor, it's a stimulus. It is where that stimulus triggers a certain response. And if you think about it, most advertising actually utilizes anchoring. So anchoring is when you have this ability to change your state because of a thought or a feeling, or you've touched something, or you've smelt something, or all of these different ways remind you of the peak state you're trying to get into, that positive, resourceful state. Now, most advertising actually uses anchoring because it creates a good feeling towards a product. Now, you might not know this, but you buy something based on emotions, whereas you justify something based on logic. So when you are buying groceries, you're doing your weekly food shopping, you're normally buying on logic, right? Gotta eat to stay alive. I need my protein, I need my fats, I need my carbs, I need my veg, I need whatever, my dairy, whatever it is you'll get buying. Sometimes your wants, you see something on the TV, back in the old days when we used to have adverts on TVs. Nowadays you'll see it on Facebook or TikTok or whatever, and you think, wow, I'm really emotionally attached to that. Now, I've got a funny story about this because it's just happened over Christmas. So on TikTok, there's something called TikTok Shop. So it's basically where businesses advertise on TikTok. It's as simple as that. Something I bought Laura for Christmas, which was a couple's hand molding kit. So it's quite romantic, really. You hold hands with your wife or partner, dunk it in this massive tub, and it sets, and you pour in some, I don't know what you pour in, and you pour something in, and it sets like your hands, and then that becomes an ornament for your house. And I bought this for my wife, I ordered it for Christmas, and I was like, oh, I'm so emotionally attached to this. This is going to be lovely, we're going to have a lovely time making this. And I paid for it, and then the funny part is it came and it just was a packet of shit, and there was no bucket. I'd obviously got absolutely ripped off. It was like a hoax almost. So do not buy off TikTok Shop is probably the takeaway from that. But the main reason was, why did I buy that? Because I saw it and there was an emotional response that said, Laura and I would love this. It really aligns with what we like to do and spend time with each other. It spends time with each other. It shows each other how much we love each other. There was deep layers to this purchase. And that was bought on emotion. I'd finished shopping for Christmas. I was scrolling on TikTok, and then a 20 quid kit popped up, and I emotionally thought, right, I'm going to buy that. Logically, it should have been, do I want to spend 20 quid on this random thing that's just popped up on TikTok? I don't know anything about it. Do I trust the source? I've already got her enough things for Christmas. I don't need to spend any more. That's the logic. However, the emotional response was stronger. And I said, no, she'll love it. We'll have a lovely time doing it. It'll be a lovely time. And the emotions won, and my bank account got burned. So that's one of the examples. The second one, let me take you back to the clothes example that I was giving. So one of my favorite brands, as you can probably see in this video, and you will have seen in other videos, is that my favorite brand's Under Armour. I love Project Rock stuff. I just love Under Armour. It's my favorite brand. Has been for years. And I've got, all the caps, all the shoes, all the t-shirts, training gear, gym kit, running kit, smart-ish gear, or I call it smart-ish gear. And I love that brand. Not because I love the kit. It's obviously high quality. But it's more about how I feel when I wear it. I feel more confident. I feel motivated. I feel like I look all right. I also think about who else wears it. Dwayne Johnson's someone I admire and aspire to be like. I want to be doing similar things to what he's doing, right? So there's all these different layers that are going on. And when I put on those clothes, I feel a lot more confident. That's why they often appear in these videos, because I'm trying to be nice and confident for you guys and get in a peak performing state when I film myself. And my podcast wouldn't be too good if I was sniffling and not looking at the camera and being really quite scared, which might have been my feelings, but because part of the reason is I put some of these clothes on and I've anchored feeling incredibly positive and confident with these clothes, and now I am feeling that way. So taking you back to that lecturing example, I swapped out my smart shoes and pants and my old man clothes basically, and started to wear these younger clothes. And like I say, I've just felt like myself. I feel much better. I feel like I can perform a lot better because I've anchored that feeling when I put these clothes on. So start to think about what you like to wear. Start to think about how you like to feel, and you can start to build some of these anchors as well. But it can also be things like words. So again, I have a song that I listen to before any high pressure thing that I'm doing, and that's Unstoppable by Sia. You've probably heard it. If not, I love it. And that's part of the reason the podcast is called what it is, the Unstoppable Introvert Project, because I wanted to have Unstoppable in the title. That song inspired me to become unstoppable, so I wanted to incorporate it in there. So yeah, that's something that really helps me. I listen to it before I do most things, to be honest. When I hit the gym, when I do a presentation, if I've got an interview, if I need to get my mindset right, it just helps me get into that peak state. It can also be smells, it can be tastes, it can be a certain food. I've heard about stories when it's cricketers love the smell of freshly cut grass. Going out on the pitch and smelling the freshly cut grass helps them get focused and up for it. Could be the touch of something, picking an item up. That could be something. You might have seen somebody kiss their ring. Harry Kane does it sometimes. Kisses the ring and gets them in that peak state. You also see footballers and quite a lot of sports people actually who do a little prayer. You might have seen them touch the ground and do a little cross, do a little prayer. That's their anchor as they come on the pitch. Another one of my favorite examples is Hugh Jackman. Huge Hugh Jackman fan. Try saying that quick 10 times. Huge Hugh Jackman fan. And something he talked about was he doesn't wear aftershave a lot of the time. But when he's performing, say on a Broadway show or a musical or whatever, he puts that aftershave on just before he goes to perform, and that transforms him into this peak state, which I thought was really cool, really interesting. So that is the smell of the perfume or the aftershave, and that takes him to where he needs to go. So loads of things there. Have a think about what helps you get in that peak physical and mental state so you can perform at this incredibly high level. Because the main thing I want you to take away from today is that you have a choice about being in this unresourceful or resourceful state. Now, let me give you, again, I really want to make this as open as I can about how I use this type of stuff. When I was struggling with my mental health at the back end of 2023, because I was just overwhelmed and wanting to get my podcast going, but I didn't know how, and I was allowing myself to stay in this really bad mental state, and I was getting into a really bad habit. I would go and sit against a wall like a ball, like with my knees close to my chest, my arms wrapped around, and almost like I was in the fetal position. And I would allow myself to be in that negative, unresourceful state. But then I had to learn to snap out of it. So I would go and I would work out. I would listen to my Unstoppable song. I would have a shower and get changed. I would play with the dog. I would do all these different things that would actually bring me back to the peak performer I know I am. So you will probably be in a situation at some point where you know it's not resourceful. You think, I should not be doing this. You know, I'm not being productive. I'm not being the best version of myself. And you have the ability to change that. You think, right, I'm going to break this state. I'm going to interrupt the pattern by maybe doing a workout, maybe having different thoughts, maybe dancing. Dancing and singing is a really good one. So at lunchtime, I always play with my dog, with Looney. And we play for about 20-25 minutes every single lunchtime, and I put songs I like to sing on, and I have a dance, I dance with her, I sing to her. I'm not sure she loves it, but she likes playing with the toys anyway, and I serenade the dog, and after it, I feel great. Whatever was pissing me off in the morning is gone. Now I'm fully refreshed, ready to kill the afternoon. You know, you can change things like your breathing pattern, you can speed it up, you can slow it down, you can move more. I mean, the best one for me in general is running. So going for a run really changes my state. It gives me time just by myself, which I need as an introvert. It gives me time to think things through. It gives me time to analyze the more negative thoughts and really put stuff in the bin. You know, think, is this thought serving me? No, right, it goes in the bin. And then I think of some thoughts that can serve me. And then the last part about thoughts is that you can refocus that attention. Really spend time thinking about, what do I need to focus on to make this more positive? So really just spend some time bringing those thoughts to the surface and focusing them on more positive things. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of ways to actually get in a high performing state, a peak performance state, and anchor yourself. Now, something Rob and I used to do when we spoke on stage, which was really quite funny, is we both had different anchors. So Rob's was, he'd pretend he had a circle in his hand and he'd throw it on the floor, and then whatever was going on in that circle was his kind of confidence circle. So basically Rob would throw this pretend circle on the floor. He would then step in the circle, and by stepping in the circle, he would feel really confident. And then he would step out of the circle and feel less confident. And he could manipulate his own state by chucking these different circles on the ground. So it's quite amusing watching him throw these circles, but you could see his state would change. And then as we went on stage, he would throw a pretend circle onto the stage, he would go and walk into it, and then he would crush the presentation that we were doing. I did something slightly different. I pretended I was Superman, and it's so dramatic, I know. And I would pretend to do the rip of the Superman shirt before I went out on stage. So I would go, and I would walk out. As I was walking out on stage, I would pull the shirt open, the pretend shirt. I'm obviously not ripping my own shirt off just before going on stage. I'd rip the shirt off, step into it, pretend I was Superman, and that would give me confidence. And, you know, we must have been quite a sight. Rob doing these circle things, me trying to rip open a pretend shirt. I don't know what was going on. But we always, to be fair, we always fucking killed our presentations because we were actually well rehearsed, well prepared, worked very well with each other, and helped each other get into these peak performing states. So that is a real life example of how myself and Rob obviously use that a lot, and you can do that as well. But one of the ways to anchor is just by very simply, we can do it with your hand. So I want you to pretend that there is a kind of a bubble of confidence floating around yourself, your room. And all I want you to do is grab it. So you're going to grab it, and by grabbing it, you're going to make a fist. So you've grabbed it and made a fist, and that is going to be your resourceful state. You're going to pretend that you've grabbed this confidence and you have it in your hand, and that is going to be your new confident state. And then when you're finished feeling confident, you can just let it go, and it's there whenever you need it. And all you need to do is really, as you grab this ball of confidence that's in midair and you make that fist, and you've now absorbed that confidence, really connect your senses to how you are wanting to feel. Are you confident? Are you happy? Are you inspired? Are you motivated? Are you feeling energized? And attach those feelings to that movement. And what you're doing is you're anchoring those feelings, high energy, motivated, inspired, confident, to that simple movement of grabbing that ball of confidence from midair and clutching it in your fist like this. If you're watching on YouTube, that is. And then break it, let it go, allow it to float off, allow yourself to come back down from that peak state, and then do it again. I can feel myself getting pumped up. I'm completely over the failed podcast earlier today, because this is making me feel so good. I feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. I can feel like the blood's pumping through my veins a little bit quicker. My arms are tingling. The hairs are standing up a little bit, and I feel like I'm fucking ready to go. Let's go. You can hopefully you can see from the video or hear from the audio that my state has changed just by doing that. I'm speaking quicker. I'm feeling different. I'm doing more hand movements I'm suddenly aware of. My eyes are probably a bit more focused. There's more energy about my delivery. So hopefully you can see what this actually means. If you're not watching on YouTube, head over to @DrDavidHooper and see what I'm doing. But hopefully that brings to life how easy it is. Thinking about those senses. How do I feel? What am I thinking? And grabbing that ball of confidence, clutching it, and suddenly I'm ready to go. I'm ready to perform. And then let it go, allow it to float off. Because the good thing is, if you let it go, and it's just floating around you, you can grab it whenever you need it. Just as you walk into a meeting, boom, grab your confidence ball. Just about to do a presentation, boom, grab your confidence ball. And that might be a bit easier to do than chucking Rob's imaginary circle on the floor, or maybe doing my Superman pose. So yeah, I'm absolutely pumped. I hope you've enjoyed this, guys. I hope that you have got something from it, that you can practically anchor yourself moving forward. And I think, we can't guarantee that you'll never experience any unresourceful state or that kind of negative state. But what you can do is put these different tools and techniques into your life to start to overcome those challenges. When you start to have an empowered response to these different scenarios, you're going to be anchoring yourself in a really good way to deal with these experiences in the future. So remember, you've got that confidence ball around you at all times. You can grab it in your fist, make that fist, absorb that confidence. Think about how you're feeling, energized, motivated, inspired, high energy, confident, whatever it is to you. Really visualize it in your mind. And then once you've finished doing whatever you're doing, allow it to leave your hand, and the ball will just flow around you, and it's there whenever you need it. And like I said, just a couple of minutes ago, you saw my state completely change. I wish this podcast was going to go on for another hour, to be honest. I feel that pumped. I have got a workout scheduled for later today, though, so I'll burn some energy off then. Remember, check out that song, Unstoppable by Sia. Like I said, it's my favorite song, and it's one I've incorporated into the podcast title. I love it that much, and it just helps solidify that we are all unstoppable introverts, and I am so thrilled that you're on this journey with me, and please just keep checking back in. We're going to be posting twice a week. Head over to Instagram as well and TikTok at Dr. David Hooper, and you can see clips of all the different podcasts on there. We're just figuring out how to do that. We're going to be using some AI to kind of cut up the videos in different ways, which is really exciting. And remember to share this to any introvert who it might be useful for. Pass on the Spotify handle at the Unstoppable Introvert Project podcast. And of course, find me on YouTube at Dr. David Hooper. And I hope you have an amazing week. And remember, being an introvert isn't the thing that will hold you back. It is the thing that will catapult you towards becoming your most unstoppable, amazing self. Until next time, stay unstoppable.